I like to say that you could write the most scientifically perfect program for somebody, but if they can't do it, it's not the perfect program.
Yeah.
People need to address the deeper things that we have discussed. And if you don't do that, then, well, shoot, your whole effort in fitness at all, at least for the season that you decide to commit to it, may not give you everything that you wanted from it because you haven't addressed the other things that lie under the surface.
Welcome to the Personal Mastery and Growth Podcast, where we explore the keys to unlocking your full potential and living your best life. I'm your host, Jose Johnson. Whether you're looking to make a breakthrough, overcome a challenge, or simply live with greater clarity, joy, and purpose, you'll find the tools and inspirations you need right here. So let's start your journey towards personal mastery and growth right now. Hi, and welcome back to the Personal Mastery and Growth Podcast, your go-to resource for practical tips, insightful research, and inspiring stories to help you unlock your full potential. I am your host, Jose Johnson, and I am an expert in mindfulness, mindset, and peak performance, and I'm so thrilled to have you with me here today. And today, we are diving into the benefits of exercise and why it's more important than you might think. And to help me out, I brought in a good friend who is an expert on fitness and its holistic impact, Mr. Joel Chandler.
Thank you so much.
All right, Joel, it's a pleasure to have you here. And, we've had some great conversations over the past, how long has it been? It's about a year or something like that?
Roughly a year,
Yeah, about
yes.
roughly a year since we first connected. And, I just want to dive right into this.
Sure.
Why is fitness so important?
There's a lot packed in there, and you knew I was going to open it up like that.
Yeah, exactly.
At the outset here, it's important that people just remember that in general, if you do what your doctor tells you to do, you're going to have a much healthier life. You get all the physiological benefits of physical activity that it could possibly give you with 150 minutes of moderate intensity activity per week, according to the CDC. So the benefit that people miss from fitness pertains to a bit deeper understanding of fitness culture and what fitness culture tends to throw out into people's field of view for them to understand what they should be doing. Young people, middle-aged people, old people all have some frame of reference for what they should or shouldn't be doing, what's safe or not safe, what's appropriate or inappropriate. And a lot of these things do have to be considered. But I think what gets missed in all of it is the potential for fitness to be an incredible instrument of continued self-evolution.
Oh, now that's deep.
Yeah, it's probably my absolute favorite part about it all. I like lifting weights as much as the next guy who loves lifting weights, but there's something deeper to how people see themselves if they look at it as an opportunity for growth. And you don't have to look any further than people who have an incredible transformation with weight loss, with performance, with getting back on their feet after life takes a solid crack at them. And we've all been through things like that. And what you discover is that fitness doesn't just give you a rhythm, it helps you see yourself differently.
Yeah. And I think that is, in many ways, the thing that most people in the fitness industry seem to miss. It becomes about, how many reps can we get you to go through? What do you look like? And, all of the external markers. And the internal transformation seems to be secondary, if it's even that high on so many people's radar. But that's the one thing that I love about your approach is that it's very much in alignment with the way I look at things, which is, we are these holistic beings, and all of the parts of us, the physical, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, all of these things have to come together. And if one of them isn't working right, it's like, the cylinders in your car, if they're not all firing right and at the right time, you're going to have problems. So, the physical approach to our improvement, I think is one that so many of us don't understand. It's just that cursory level of the going to the gym to lift weights or to lose weight or things like that, and not looking at how that fits into making us the best possible version of ourselves. So how did you get into not just fitness in general, but how did you develop this more global view of what it means to be a fitness trainer as you are, and how that impacts the lives of people beyond just being able to get into their pants?
Yeah. I didn't initially plan to be a fitness trainer. That was not the trajectory I had envisioned for myself when I was in college. I studied anthropology with the intent of doing the background stuff in the field of the science of anthropology for missionaries, so that when they went into a culture and they were trying to communicate with another culture, if there was going to be any sort of contextualization of any kind of message or interfaith organizational work, that there could be a collaborative effort between cultures where, in a lot of cases, there's not always a one-to-one correspondence in terminologies and themes and even objectives. So what steered me the direction of fitness was my own personal life at the time. I'd grown up lifting weights on occasion in high school and stuff, and got to college, and my buddies wanted to go all the time. And I was like, y'all keep doing this. It makes sense. But it wasn't until I had done some work in Western India that, in the research leading up to my time over there in the field, I was needing to dig deeper into the history of India, its philosophy, its incredibly diverse religion, and all of the philosophies that have emerged from the subcontinent from 1000 BC and even prior. And I came across this philosophy called Samkhya, and it's very much interrelated with the philosophy of yoga, which a lot of people will recognize that word. Very popular. The depth of it had more to do with an understanding of human beings as a synthesis of consciousness and physical matter. And if you think back to your philosophy classes and your history classes talking about Plato and Socrates, this is very much also a Greek idea of the soul being separate from the body, but two things working together. It's sort of dualism of human existence and the human experience. What ultimately led me to deciding on a fitness career was, well, I enjoyed fitness very much, but something clicked for me when I realized I wasn't just feeling better because I was working out. It was starting to do something to me, and I was seeing myself differently. Whether I was reaching my objectives or not, I saw that it changed the way that I kept a routine. It altered the way that I interacted with people. And as I leaned harder into that and started training people, and people were getting transformations, we realized that their transformation was doing more than just altering their body composition. It was affecting their relationships. It was affecting their work performance. Some people quit their jobs because they had such an improvement in self-confidence. And that wasn't something that they initially, when they came to work with me, thought that was an objective. But you see all this tremendous impact unfolding like dominoes. Once you have a change, you can't not get change in other places. And the parallel between that individual structuring of human change mirrors exactly what you learn in anthropology about human culture, that if you touch culture at one point, you start to alter it everywhere else. You can't lay down this perfect formula for how you want to steer culture. A lot of times propaganda is meant to do that, like plant seeds, like manipulate how people think, and sometimes it can go that direction. Well, in any case, I like to say that human beings are complicated creatures that sometimes need to be tricked into doing things. But the trick that makes people change their behavior is they need to see evidence that something is true, or they're not going to do it. So you see how all this came together. I didn't decide it was something I wanted to do. It was something that I realized, wow, this makes so much sense. It'd be stupid not to do it.
Yeah, yeah, that's really cool, and as you were saying, like with the Indian culture. I mean, area of expertise was basically formed in the Chinese culture. I studied Chinese martial arts and energy arts and things like that. That in those cultures, while the dualism does exist, I mean, in Chinese terms, it would be like the yin yang, that which is technically called taiji, that exists where there are these polar opposites that exist, but it's not opposition the way our Western minds think of it
Yes.
as conflict. They're the complementary opposites. It's the space that allows for fullness. It's the ease that allows for effort. So all these things work together, and the importance of the physical component. It wasn't until I really began to become a serious martial arts practitioner that I began to understand how the physical exercise and the physical expression of who I am and the training I had to go through, how that had that ripple effect throughout all the different areas of my life. And it's so refreshing, especially since you're such a young blood, as we like to say. You're such a young guy, but you have this wealth of knowledge and experience, like the saying, the old soul sort of thing. And it's so refreshing to hear someone who has that perspective of what they're doing is not just about, and there's nothing wrong with helping somebody to drop 3 dress sizes, or to be able to deadlift gazillion pounds. That's all great, but it seems to me that your motivating drive comes from making a complete difference in the person, not just the outward appearance. But it's just that seems to be the easiest in for you to get into, helping the person to understand that there's so much more that they can be tapping into.
Yes. And what I want to make absolutely clear is that there is no such thing as a wasted training session. There are a lot of people that are oriented mostly towards science of training, and they would make the argument that if you do a workout but you aren't aiming for any particular objective, then you're in there spinning your wheels and you're wasting your time. Well, everything is context dependent, right? So if you're having a bad day and your objective is, you know what, so what with this training program today, I just need to move, it's not wasted. There are a lot of reasons that people walk into a gym. A lot of them tend to begin with the way that they look, and the way that how they look makes them feel. And a lot of reasons that people walk into a gym is because of what they can't do anymore. So how we perceive ourselves has a lot to do with how we believe we still have agency. So if you can restore that, then a lot of people will get the thing that's hiding under the surface. Fitness culture in various places does address this, but you have to get past the front door of the gym, and you have to get past the marketing and advertising strategies to find this. It's just not. It's not what people are going to stop and read 3 minutes for. They're going to watch for 5 seconds, and if it's not catching their eye, they're going to move to the next thing. But this is the path of discovery that I want everybody to have. But it's all always context dependent, and it's not the same path for everybody. The science rules are the same. Like, if you want to get X result, you got to do X things. That the nerds in the lab figured that out.
Yeah.
We have to do that. But putting yourself in a position to accomplish a goal that doesn't even have any relevance to your sense of self in a moment or where you intend to go, maybe it's not the right program. And that's why this is so important.
Yeah. Well, they say, especially like in the coaching world, and it ties into exactly what you're doing as well, because you are a coach, is that when a client comes to you, you first have to give them what they want so that you can give them what they need.
Yes.
Because a lot of times, people don't really understand what it is that they truly need. But if you can identify that want or the pain point in some cases, the I can't fit into my clothes anymore, or I can't play with my kids because I get winded, or all those other end symptoms. Those are the ones that people will latch onto. But it's through our areas of understanding and learning and expertise, and in many ways it's our intuition, comes into play, of being able to decipher all that and say, well, yeah, this may be, the outward, the big symptom, but there's so much more going on underneath the hood. But until you can get them going on something, you can't get to those deeper things.
Yes. People know what they believe they're looking for. What they don't expect to find is the deeper layers of everything that we eventually explore in this type of coaching. And for better or for worse, people will come face to face with the thing that has them wanting what they want.
Yeah. And that's why, for me, I think it's so important to have this more holistic approach to what I do. And I see that this is something that we share as a value of, certainly you can treat that one symptom, but knowing that you're working with them as a full individual and all those different components. And, it's much like, I think we were having a conversation recently about chiropractic, about if your spine's out of alignment and you get an adjustment, that's all well and good. You're treating that one isolated thing. But if you don't do massage to back it up, or if you're not doing stretching or flexibility training, or if you're not doing weightlifting to strengthen your musculature from imbalances, your body's going to go back to exactly where it was before. So you have to really start doing these deeper dives and making these adjustments, mindset adjustments, nutritional adjustments. All those things have to come into play if you want to be the best version of yourself.
Yes, absolutely. I like to say that you could write the most scientifically perfect program for somebody, but if they can't do it, it's not the perfect program.
Yeah.
People need to address the deeper things that we have discussed. And if you don't do that, then, well, shoot, your whole effort in fitness at all, at least for the season that you decide to commit to it, may not give you everything that you wanted from it because you haven't addressed the other things that lie under the surface.
Yeah. So as a trainer, I'm sure that you've had your fair share of people who have come to you who have dabbled or experienced or experimented with fitness and maybe have, I don't want to say the wrong idea, but maybe they've had bad experiences. They really haven't found a program that helps them to meet their needs. What are the processes that you typically go through when you're evaluating a client and trying to help them to make the right steps?
Well, the first question is, what have you done before? And what worked? What was your sense of what worked, whether it objectively did or not? What is your subjective sense of what worked for you? What did you enjoy? Do you have previous experience with another trainer? Do you have experience doing this on your own? And what is the end objective? What are you trying to accomplish? I think people miss the point of these questions because we're not inclined to know that it goes as far as what we're talking about. So when I put a program together for people and I ask these questions, I want to make sure that I'm not going to put something together that they can't continue to do. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
It needs to start with the context of who they are, and then it needs to flow from that point. If it's something that is going to be completely against their nature, if it's so far over here in science realm and my language and the way I talk to them is too sciencey, it might not stick. I need to meet that person where they are and from then take small steps forward. That's how the program gets designed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, one of the things that has resonated with me in my life and what I try to apply in my coaching as well is that whatever solution you're trying to come up with, it has to be sustainable. It's the like the person who decides, like for their fitness journey, for example, let's say that they decide that their exercise du jour is biking, right? So they want to go out biking. Well, is that a sustainable activity for you based on your lifestyle? If you like doing mountain biking, but you live in the middle of the plains, well, maybe that's not a good choice for
Right.
you. You need to be someplace where it's convenient, where you can do it without creating so much interruption in the course of your day. if you want to go to the gym, how does that fit with your work schedule? How does that fit with your family commitments? And I think so many times we have these kind of cookie cutter approaches to activities like fitness or meditation or other things that aren't necessarily the right fit based on what that person's lifestyle will actually be able to accommodate. And as soon as you start to run into that friction, then that's when you're going to quit, because
Correct.
you're going to drop out because you can't sustain it. So I love the idea of finding the language that fits with your client, finding a methodology that is going to be in alignment with their life and their objectives. Yeah, I think that we should be applying that in every area of our life.
Sure. People have a frame of reference for their immediate life experience. We have rhythms and routines. When the routine changes, we don't like change to happen too fast. It's very disruptive. If someone comes to me and says, I want to ride my bike a lot. I want to keep riding my bike, but also want to do bodybuilding. Like, okay, well, how many days a week can you do something like that? Okay, well, after figuring for your work, your social obligations, your family, and nurturing other areas of your life that are incredibly important, it looks like you don't have time for 6 days a week. So let's reevaluate why you think bodybuilding is important to you. Would it be inappropriate to do something with resistance training that allows you to develop muscle mass, but also gives you time for everything else that's important to you so you don't blow up your life, to put it crudely? You can't just, I love this metaphor I started using recently. Did you play with Play-Doh when you were younger?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, do you remember the extruders? You put the ball of dough in the thing, you push the handle, and spaghetti
Right.
comes out the other side. I liken this whole situation to one of those toys, where in this particular scenario, the toy is all the science rules, and someone says they want this goal. Okay, well, like, the nerds figured it out. So here's the shape the extruder needs to be, and we want a star shape and not the spaghetti shape. So we're gonna put a star shape in there. So let's do that. Now we're gonna put the human, which is the ball of clay, into this machine and force it through all these rules. Okay, well, you got your ideal outcome maybe if the person could adhere to the program all the way through. And then the big burning question at the end is, well, what do you do after that? Now you just have a mess on the other side of the extruder. So the way to do this is instead to take the person as the extruder, take all the science rules and force it through the person and get your program on that side. So now you have something that's a little bit more related to the human and not something that's so mechanical.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love that. And, being a bit of a nerd myself, all of the research that's been coming out about ways to maximize your wellness and your fitness, because I think sometimes we have first of all, I think we have a disconnect in terms of what it means to be well or healthy and what it means to be fit. And, maybe it's just, semantics and things like that. But it's like when we see somebody that you're at the beach and you see somebody walking around with a six pack and they're all ripped and things like that, and we think, oh, that person's fit, that person's healthy. Well, externally, maybe, but I also have known people that have been like serious athletes and bodybuilders and things like that, and they're taking roids and they're doing all this stuff, and so their outside looks stellar, but their inside is as effed up as anything, because they're doing things internally that aren't good for them, or they're screwed up in the head because of all of these things. So when we look at wellness can be it can be deceptive, and we have to look. I think we have to look at what is our definition of wellness, what is our definition of living a healthy life, and having the exercise being a portion of that. And I'm seeing how so much of the research is coming out that there are so many things that we can do that buck the traditional system. Like one of the big things that I just started actually recently, a challenge to my online community based on the concept of VILPA, the vigorous intermittent lifestyle physical activity. So the idea that the research that was conducted at University of Sydney found that people who do 1 to 4 minutes of this VILPA kind of activity, this basically just means, intensifying or increasing the intensity of your daily physical activities, doing your laundry, washing the car, whatever it is, 1 to 4 minutes a day could create a 40% reduction in all-cause morbidity and a 49% reduction in cardiovascular-based morbidity. So it's like, okay, so I don't have to go to the gym, not saying that you shouldn't, but I can get benefit by doing the stuff that I'm doing every day, but I have to do it intentionally. And so like the research like that, where you start to find out, okay, well, there are ways that I can incorporate fitness into my day-to-day life that's not going to detract from being able to live my life. So you're not a slave to the gym.
Right.
And I think that kind of research that's coming out, I see it with exercise, I see it with mindfulness, I see it with so many different things, that it doesn't take as long as we think it does. Not saying that if you only do 4 minutes of activity a day that you're going to be in killer shape, but I think the thing is that if you start doing something like that VILPA activity, it's not hard to do 1 to 4 minutes. And once you do 4 minutes, your tendency is going to be to want to do 5 minutes and then 10 minutes and then 15 minutes and then
Right.
20 minutes. So you build that confidence competence loop starts going. And that's, I think, when our lives begin to change. But I think you have to set the bar low to start out with.
Yes. People across my career, I have seen clients and other trainers' clients struggle with following through. And when we start to do some of this deeper level coaching, what we find is that these particular individuals in question are they do what I call chasing the carrot on the stick. They're always in pursuit of the end result, forgetting that, as Alan Watts described, forgetting to dance. That life's a dance. It's a song. It was meant to be played. They're supposed to have ups and downs and everything. One of the coaching points that I have made with people that has helped a lot of them shift how they're thinking about what they're doing is simply asking them, how do you think that this could go if you identified yourself as a person who was already doing this and was doing it for a long time? Or are you trying so hard at this that you're just getting tired of trying? You're not seeing the results. You're not seeing the evidence. Well, if you're not seeing the evidence, well, your brain's not stupid. You're not going to continue to do it if you don't see that it's worth all the investment you're making financially, for sure, if you're training with someone in person, and certainly with your time, because you can't get that back. So why bother if it's not working? If you're always chasing the carrot on the stick, you will continue to be a person who identifies as chasing. The goal's always out of reach. You're always after it, and you're not dancing. You're not in the present moment. You're living your life in the future and holding your happiness hostage to the outcome, which you're not seeing evidence for it. Well, now you're not going to be happy with that dimension of your life. Like I said, the thing that I have seen be helpful for people in coaching is trying to lead them to a place where they're thinking about, well, in what form or fashion can I see myself continuing to do some activity for the next 35 years of my life? And that starts to get the gears turning, and then things start to change. And then suddenly, as with a client I had recently, he's down 100 pounds. It was the goal. He wanted it. And I'm not saying that there were never points of frustration along the way, but his sense of wellness eventually got untangled, as you were describing earlier, from this, what I see or what I need to see to know, yes, now I am well, to know I'm well because I'm doing the things and I'm a person who does the things.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a saying, a big saying in the personal development circle, that in terms of goal achievement, achieving the goal is not the important thing. It's the person that you become through the pursuit of that goal. That's the key. So it's understanding that if you want to be successful, whether it's successful in your fitness career, successful in your business, successful in your relationships, it's what kind of person would have that success that you're looking for. So maybe it's the dedication, the commitment, or in some cases, like, a person who's going to have this level of success is going to be fearless. They're going, so what are the qualities, what are the traits that that person that you want to become would have, and then embrace those. And you can get those feelings. You can start to feel confident without having the major accomplishments
Mm.
if you learn to focus your attention on the small wins. You
Yes,
know?
yes. And that's something that in the coaching process, I really make sure to underscore is any opportunity to celebrate a win, we have to do it because it's evidence that you are the person. Like you did the thing. Check the box as hard as you can and make sure the pen goes through the paper. You did it. And don't forget that you did it. And then it's a series of that. And when you do that, you're dancing the whole time.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I love the dance. That's a good one. And dancing is good exercise as well. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
unless you're a bad dancer, in which case it's just painful.
They say that salsa is a good dance to learn if you're very methodical in your thinking. So like if you need solid structure, I mean you can still flourish with salsa, obviously. But if you need to know exactly where your feet are supposed to go, it's a good one to start with.
Yeah, yeah. As opposed to some of the people I see out on the dance floor sometimes. I want to call the EMS and say someone's having a seizure out there on the floor, so that's not a good thing. But I want to just throw this out at you. Okay, want you to imagine for a second that you have a magic wand.
Sure.
Okay, and you're going to wave the wand, and you're going to completely change the fitness industry.
Oh boy.
Granted, like we've been talking about, there has to be a variety of things to meet a variety of needs.
Right.
But speaking generally, what are the things that you would like to see change in the fitness industry, or maybe in the way that we societally think about the role of fitness in our lives?
I think that if you put your fingers to the pulse of fitness culture now, you can see how it has changed in the last 15 years. And even if you increase the time span, you can see its evolution. And I think it's going a good direction. There are a lot of evidence-based trainers now making sure that they're using citations even in some of their TikTok videos, which I think is great. There are a lot of women more willing to pick up resistance training than there used to be for reasons of science and for what people realize being human beings and being in environments where your body is exposed to loads, it does so many awesome things for you. Taking a step back from that, however, I don't know how I could possibly imagine how the fitness world could be changed or how I might change it, because in the same way that I think back to my days in India and thinking about human culture and how culture changes, it's not a top down thing, and I won't get into sort of some of my own personal philosophical evolution. The short of it is that humans are sense-making creatures at every single moment in time, and philosopher Soren Kierkegaard said this very well when he described that life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forward. So as people live and their subjective experiences guide them toward whatever direction they want to go, away from pain aversion, of course, in the direction of satisfaction of life. We make all these decisions. You can't, from the top down, make some move and then it trickles all the way down. You can do things and it absolutely will leave an impact. We saw that with P90X. I don't know if you remember the infomercials for that.
Yeah.
That trainer, Tony Horton, actually loved that guy. Learned a lot from him when I was a younger trainer. Made a enormous impact on fitness culture in the United States. I would argue worldwide. But it didn't address some of the deeper layer things that we had talked about previously. Because the intent of P90X was home fitness. You can do this at home. You can get shredded. It's a hard program. But again, for the people that would buy the program and not finish it, the question is, well, why not? Was it too hard? Did you just not follow the structure? Did you just think it was gonna happen if you bought it? I think the only way to do this is on an individual basis. Human experiences are phenomenological. They are within their own terms of their own experience. And what I mean by this is, for example, the way that If you ate a piece of dark chocolate and I ate a same piece of dark chocolate, our subjective experience about that might be completely different, despite it having the same chemical signature on our tongues and taste buds and how they interact and stuff. But our experience of that are two completely different things. It's like, okay, well, here's this human having this experience and this human having this experience, and shouldn't they be similar? But the answer is no. Well, is one of them true and the other's false? Is the dark chocolate objectively better than milk chocolate? Well, that's called being human. And I think if there's going to be any kind of change in fitness culture, there have to be enough people saying the same thing in order for it to change. That's how language works. That's why kids say yeet. I didn't learn what that was till like 3 years after it was out of fashion.
Well, there's so much truth in what you just said. I mean, our perception of our reality,
Yes.
that drives everything fundamentally. And that's, as a coach, that's what I try to help people understand, is that, you know, my saying is, it is what it is, becomes what you make it. And that is it. Things, it is what it is. This is the situation. This is the experience you're having. And that is quantifiable. But the way that you interpret that, the way that you respond to it, that is where our unique perspectives come in, and how we create our own reality. And I think that, like, for so many people, the idea of what it takes to be healthy, that what it takes to be in good physical condition. I mean, as I said before, I think sometimes we just look at the outward markers, and then we miss all of the intricacies that go into all the little subtle nuances that become part of your journey towards physical well-being. And we miss the fact that you're not going to be able to change your body completely without changing your mind as well. So those, you have to, and conversely, for people, like if I'm coaching someone on mindset, there's a physical component to that too, because we are physical creatures. We are living in this physical world, and our bodies thrive on movement. It doesn't mean you have to go out and run a marathon, but you do need to move. That's the way that we help to alleviate pain. That's the way that we help to open up our awareness, our creativity. Problem solving was basically designed to be done on the run, so all these different things. And I think societally, we've kind of gotten ourselves pigeonholed, literally and figuratively. We put ourselves in a box, and we sit in cubicles, and our kids sit at desks in school, and not understanding that physical movement is so crucial to not only the use of our brains in terms of our, as an adult, but also in the development of the brain for children. Children learn through play.
Yes.
It's through activity. So, when you're coaching someone as a trainer, and you're looking at maybe how some of the restrictions that they have in building the physical skills, or realizing the physical results they're looking for, are actually driven from a more internal block. What are some of the ways that you help people to get through that so that they can maximize their training regimen?
The simplest way to address something that may be stuck is to simply ask the question, in your experience, what do you think is getting in the way? Because you told me you want this, and I asked you to do this, and it didn't happen. So let's talk about why. Let's figure it out together. It's an invitation for reflection. It's an invitation to investigate on what deeper hindrance might there be. And sometimes what you find is cognitive dissonance, where they want one thing, but they're not aware that they might really not want what's attached at the other side of it. And the brain knows, but maybe it's not conscious. They're not consciously aware of it. But that's the answer to the question, is an invitation. What do you think is getting in the way?
Yeah. Well, the answers are always found in the questions. So, yeah, absolutely. So as you're building your business, what's your objective? What's your goal?
The objective, and it's important to remember that this is a fitness project, is for this to be the last coaching that anybody ever needs. My goal with the Synchrony Project is that people develop a level of autonomy. They develop the fitness education, the mindset management tools. Meditation will play a very, very strong part in this kind of thing because the essence of human experience is always in the present moment, never in the future, never in the past. Certainly informed by imagination, informed by experience, but always lived right now. And if we try to force an outcome that's based on something that no longer exists or doesn't even exist at all, well, we might be missing our entire lives. So, fitness autonomy, it's fitness education, nutrition coaching, and mindset management tools.
Very cool. So, I mean, when you are looking at this idea of autonomy, what are some of the ways that you are helping your clients to do that, to have the confidence that they can take charge of their own wealth, their not wealth, they can take charge of their own wealth, yeah. But
Yes.
how can they take charge of their own health and fitness and learn to, as one of my teachers says, be their best teacher?
Right. Well, there needs to be a framework for the education, right? There are not pop quizzes, but there are opportunities plenty of times, especially in person, to be asking the question, what do you think comes next? Why do you think we made this decision? Does this make sense to you? And in the way that I coach, I use Sheets right now. Soon it will be an app. I use Google Sheets. And people can see week to week what are the adjustments being made and do they understand the rationale for these decisions? Because a lot of times what will happen with trainers is the trainer writes a program and the client follows the program. Client gets to the end of the program. Trainer says, good job. Do you want to keep going? No, I feel good for now. Okay, cool. Well, if it doesn't continue to be a priority, then there's no structure anymore. And that's why people are successful with a trainer if they continue to go. The objective with the Synchrony Project is to teach people how to develop their own structure. It is very, very difficult to find any sort of motivation if you don't have the traction that structure can provide to you. And of course, you're not going to feel very good about not finding motivation if you just. So I want to equip people with the skill set of being able to write their own programs and then understand. There's also I built a worksheet that goes. It's one of the first assignments in the program is getting to the root reason of why. Why are we doing this? Because if you lose that and you don't have structure, you're not going to have the motivation.
Yeah, the why is so important, and yeah, I think that again, one of my favorite quotes is "How you do anything is how you do everything." And so all the things we're talking about, they relate to building the proper fitness program. They are the things you should be doing for career advancement, for better relationships. It's all the same thing. And I think that why is that first one. It's like, well, why do you want to change? So I kind of have a who, what, where, when, why, how list that I use. It's like, well, why do you want to change? What is it that you want to change? What would, if your life's not a 10 right now, what would a 10 look like?
Right.
And what are your priorities? Are you, because there's always that trade-off, what are you willing to give up to get what you want? To not get too philosophical. Not that haven't already been philosophical.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, go ahead.
but it's like someone wants to become a new person, but they don't want to let go of the person they used to be or that they are right now. It's like they're saying that to become the old must die, and it's being willing to say, there are things about my life, about who I am, about my actions, my habits, my beliefs that are not in alignment with my objective, and so I need to let that go. Because if I don't, then there's always going to be that dissonance. There's always going to be that conflict that goes on internally, and that's going to manifest itself externally. So I think that starting with those questions is so important, as opposed to kind of the old school way we tend to think about trainers of come on, give me 3 more. That
That
just
part's still important.
oh yeah, so it's still important, yeah, because our minds quit before our bodies
Yeah.
are actually ready to. But while you're providing that motivation, I think a lot of times what is missing from so many trainers is that putting it back on the client and being able to say, well, why didn't this work? What's going on inside of you that's preventing you from following through with these actions? Not in a finger pointing kind of way, but as you said, like as a self discovery of sitting down and unpacking everything.
Right. There are a lot of people that want to hire a trainer and do the workouts because it's something that they want to do. This is me projecting what I want for the world. And it would be that anyone who hires a trainer would go with the intent to learn something. Because if you do that and you do enough learning and you really do apply yourself and you pick your trainer's brain as much as possible, and if you have a good trainer, they will let you do that. And when you are done with your experience, you should walk away having a much clearer picture of how to do something similar again or what to do next should it be a new season of life.
Yeah. So as you're launching your Synchrony project, which we'll put some information in the show notes about this. Yeah, obviously you are a trainer. You're doing the training. This is part of how you pay your rent, but not everybody's going to be able to work with you, and you may not.
Right.
You may not be a great fit for everybody. I mean,
That's
that's one of
correct.
the things I always tell people that ask me about stuff. Is like I may not be the right fit for you. We need to talk about this, but in terms of asking questions, when you have an opportunity, which you have right now, to talk to people that may or may not become clients of yours, what advice would you give them in terms of the things they need to consider when they're trying to find a trainer to help them achieve their goals?
Number one is be clear on what you're looking for. And number two is make sure that your trainer is open to having a discussion with you about the long term. Because you have one life, and it is your right as a human being to know how your body works. And what fitness looks like for you now may not be what it looks like in 15 years. If you can find a trainer who will help you develop some sort of broad scope game, not saying they'll program out every single day the rest of your life, but at least give you some understanding of the playing field for how fitness evolves over time, then choose that. Choose that first.
Very good. Very good. All right. So if we were to wrap this up, what are some of the most important things that you would want people to remember in terms of their fitness, the importance of their fitness, and things that they could and should do to move themselves towards a higher level of physical fitness and understanding?
Plain and simple, fitness can be whatever you want it to be at any point in time, and it can change. But if you choose to do something, if you want to succeed at it, you will always have to answer the question, why? I think I'll just keep it right there.
Why? That's my question to you. Why?
Oh. Because ultimately, what people decide for themselves is up to them and their experience.
Yeah.
That's it.
Exactly. Well, I love it. I love it. Joel, we could certainly talk for hours and hours, which we already have in the past, and I'm sure we will continue to in the future.
No doubt.
And I look forward to collaborating with you on some projects, and hopefully we can continue to make an impact on the world, man, because, we both have so much love for life, and being able to share that gift and that with others is just so gratifying. And it's great to find a kindred spirit who just wants to make the world a little bit better place, man.
Yeah, it's a real treat.
Yeah, it is. It can be a handful at times. There's no lie to that, but I wouldn't have it any other way. So if you're interested in finding out more about Joel, links to his contact information in the show notes. Keep an eye out for his upcoming release of his Synchrony project. It's going to be a game changer. And if you're in the Lancaster, Pennsylvania area, then certainly check him out, and hook up with him for a training session or 20. He's a good dude, and I have no doubt that if you have an opportunity to work with him, your life will be forever changed. So with that being said, folks, remember to like, share, and subscribe this episode, and share it with a friend who might be struggling with their fitness, and maybe some of the things that we talked about today will help them to get a new perspective and help them to start moving towards living the life that they really wish to live. So until next time, folks, remember, it is what it is, but it becomes what you make it. So make it great. Thanks for tuning in. Before we wrap up, I just want to remind you that the information shared in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional advice or treatment. While the content of this podcast is based on research and personal experience, everyone's situation is unique, and the advice given may not be applicable to all. Always consult a qualified professional before making significant changes in your life. The Personal Mastery and Growth podcast is recorded at the So Good Media Studios, located in the Candy Factory, a co-working space in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.